हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। तू स्वर की देवी है, संगीत तुझसे, हर शब्द तेरा है, हर गीत तुझसे। तू स्वर की देवी है, संगीत तुझसे, हर शब्द तेरा है, हर गीत तुझसे। हम हैं अकेले, हम हैं अधूरे, हम हैं अकेले, हम हैं, तेरी शरण हमें तार दे माँ। हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ।
Please be seated. Thank you. May I now request Professor Harivansh Chaturvedi to please deliver his welcome address.
Honorable Justice Hima Kohli ji, our esteemed chief guest, Professor Ranjay Gulati, distinguished global thinker and our honoree this evening, members of the governing boards of different IILM group of institutions, distinguished guests, faculty colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great privilege and honor to welcome you all to this special evening at IILM Lodi Road, New Delhi. As we gather to celebrate the life, work, and thought leadership of one of the most influential minds in the world of business and management today, Professor Ranjay Gulati of Harvard Business School. I have to share that IILM Group is currently running 2 universities. The first one at Gurugram, IILM University Gurugram, and the second one at IILM University Greater Noida. 5 business schools, 3 in NCR and 2 at Jaipur and Lucknow, and 10 public schools spread in various cities of the country. At our institutions, we have always believed that the purpose of education, especially business education, is not only to equip students with tools and techniques of management, but also to inspire them with ideas that can transform the world. And it is this belief that has guided our institutions over the past 2 decades. As we have conferred the IILM Distinguished Global Thinker Award on thought leaders who have not only shaped academic discourse globally, but also made a lasting impact on society. Our past awardees have included visionaries like late Dr. C.K. Prahlad, Lord Meghnad Desai, late Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, Professor Soumitra Datta, Dr. Jagdish Seth, among others. This year, we are deeply honored to present the 2025 Distinguished Global Thinker Award to Professor Ranjay Gulati, a scholar, teacher, and author whose contributions to leadership, purpose-driven organization, and strategy have left an indelible mark on both academics and industry. His writings, whether rigorous research articles, you might have seen a couple of articles in Harvard Business Review, or widely read popular books. His latest book, Purpose, has been published in 2023, and for the last 2 years, I have seen on YouTube and many social medias the reporting of the various discussions. He has been invited all over the world by the leading business schools and the corporate bodies. His articles and popular books have inspired leaders to look beyond profits and towards purpose. His most recent book, Deep Purpose, the heart and soul of high-performance organizations, offers a transformative perspective on purpose-driven management and challenges all of us, educators, business leaders, and students, to rethink what truly drives sustainable success. In a world grappling with uncertainty, complexity, and a deep yearning for meaning, Professor Gulati's insights are both timely and thought-provoking. We are equally privileged to have with us today Justice Hima Kohli, a renowned jurist and a respected voice in the Indian legal and constitutional landscape. Her presence elevates this occasion, and we are grateful for her time and her grace to joining us to present the award. Thank you, ma'am. As the head of IILM, Lodi Road, New Delhi, I also take this moment to reaffirm our own institutional commitment to building responsible leaders, entrepreneurs, engineers, purpose. This evening is a celebration not just of excellence, but of aspiration, the aspiration to build organizations and institutions that serve a larger goal, that touch lives, and that lead the heart and soul. The underlying spirit behind IILM Distinguished Global Thinker Award can be explained in the two verses from the Rig Vedas. And I would also like to submit that touching the heart and soul has been a major theme of our Upanishads, which are also called the Vedanta. So we have invited recently one of the director of IIM's Tiruchirappalli, Dr. P.K. Singh, to speak about his recently published book, Upanishad, Dialogues with Upanishads. I would like to present this book to both the chief guest as well as Professor Gulati. So there are two verses which are very important in the context of today's discussion, and the book authored by Professor Sanjay Gulati. These are two verses from Rig Veda. The first is Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. English translation is truth is one. Sages call it various names. In this polarized world, I think this is the most relevant verse from 5,000 years old Vedas. Second is this again from the Vedas, Ano Bhadra Kratavo Yantu Visu Taha. Meaning, let noble thoughts come to us from every side. So India not only have said Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam, but we have also said, let the noble thoughts come from every side. I thank you all for being with us this evening. We are all excited to listen to the keynote address of Professor Ranjay Gulati on Deep Purpose, the heart and soul of high-performance organizations. I am certain it will be a memorable and deeply enriching experience for all of us. Thank you and welcome once again.
Thank you, Professor Chaturvedi, for that profound opening address. I request Ms. Manika Raikwar to please read out the citation in honor of Professor Ranjay Gulati.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. We're so honored to have with us Professor Ranjay Gulati and Justice Hima Kohli. Rarely do we meet individuals who've done so much for society, and I'm going to just read out so much, or just a little bit of what Professor Ranjay Gulati has done. Professor Ranjay Gulati is the Paul R. Lawrence MBA class of 1942, Professor of Business Administration at the Harvard Business School. He's an expert on leadership, strategy, and organizational issues in firms. A graduate of economics from St. Stephen's College, where he won an exchange fellowship to attend Washington State University, where he graduated with a BS summa cum laude in computer science. Thereafter, he pursued his master's in management from the prestigious Sloan School of Management of MIT. Professor Gulati received his PhD in organizational behavior from Harvard in 1993. He won the Best Professor Award for the MBA and the Executive MBA programs at the Kellogg School of Management, where he was on the faculty before Harvard. Professor Ranjay Gulati has also featured in the Thinkers 50 list of the world's most influential business thought leaders. He truly personifies excellence in management, teaching, research, and consulting. The Economist, Financial Times, and the Economist Intelligence Unit have listed him among the top handful of business school scholars whose work is most relevant to management practice. Professor Gulati's research explores leadership and strategic challenges for building high-growth organizations in turbulent markets. Some of his prior work focused on enablers and implications of within-firm and inter-firm collaboration. He has looked at when and how firms should leverage greater connectivity within and across their boundaries to enhance performance. Professor Gulati has published in high-quality journals on the Financial Times' top 50 journal list. His paper received the Dan and Mary Lou Schneidel Best Paper Prize 2014 by Strategic Management Journal, the top journal in strategic management. He also received the 2024 C.K. Prahlad Award for Scholarly Impact on Practice and was ranked as one of the top 10 most cited scholars in economics and business for over a decade by ISI Insight. A frequent contributor to Harvard Business Review, he urges leaders in his recent article to look back to move forward. He writes, to use the past as a pathway to the future, leaders must first excavate the company's early history, arriving at a deep understanding of how and why it came to be. Professor Gulati is the best-selling author of 6 books. His most recent book, Deep Purpose, The Heart and Soul of High-Performance Companies, offers a compelling argument about purpose as a management ethos, documenting the vast performance gains and social benefits that become possible when firms get purpose right. It was picked to be among the best business books of 2022 by Forbes and Thinkers 50. Professor Gulati is an influential scholar whose work bridges the gap between academic rigor and real-world application, providing invaluable guidance to leaders worldwide. He's also on the board of Hindustan Lever as an independent director. Professor Ranjay Gulati stands out for his intellectual understanding and moral compass for how leaders navigate the path to enduring success in an uncertain business and global environment. We at IILM University are honored to confer the IILM Distinguished Thinker Award on Professor Ranjay Gulati. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Manika. May I request Dr. Harivansh Chaturvedi to present a shawl to Professor Ranjay Gulati? And our chief guest, Honorable Justice Hima Kohli, to present a citation and statue of Goddess Saraswati to Professor Gulati. May I now request Ms. Manika Raikwar to present a shawl to Honorable Justice Hima Kohli. Thank you. I request Professor Gulati to please deliver his special lecture on Deep Purpose, the Heart and Soul of High Performance Organizations.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah. First of all, I'm grateful and thankful to IILM, to Dean Chaturvedi, to Honorable Kohli over here, Justice Kohli, and thank you, Professor, to all of you for being here today. I'm delighted, I'm honored to be here. And for me, it's a privilege and pleasure to have a chance to talk to you about my research today. I don't know if you were counting on a lecture this afternoon, but you're stuck with me now for the next 35 minutes. And as a professor, I must tell you, what is the absolute worst time of day to do a lecture? Just about now. So my job is to keep you awake for the next 35 minutes. So let's just dig right in. Let me talk about my research and how I got into this. If you told me, say 5, 6 years ago, and actually no, 7 years ago, you would say, Ranjay, I have a crystal ball and you are going to write a book about purpose. I would have said, you're crazy. Not a chance. Who studies purpose? I mean, mission statements, companies have mission statements. Nobody reads mission statements. Why would I want to do research on company mission statements? It absolutely would make no sense to me. Now, full disclosure, what was going on at the time was, I was going to go on a sabbatical. And at the time I was working closely with the CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, and his board and his management team. He's written the foreword to this book, as you can see if you look carefully up there. So he was at that time writing letters to public company CEOs about how they should have a purpose. And I was a little confused at first. I said, you're an investor, you're a finance person, you care about returns. Why would you want companies to have a purpose? So anyway, this is confusion in my mind. I'm going to go on a sabbatical. I'm looking for something to study during my 1 year off. And because my own research was really studying growth. I studied how to unlock growth in businesses in good times and bad. That was what I studied. And my research had over time gravitated into studying strategy and studying strategy implementation. This was kind of what I did, right? So studying purpose was not really on my mind. So I went on a sabbatical, and I should also add over here, I was at that time also intrigued by incumbent company failure. Why do great companies fail? So I wrote a case on Netflix, and the CEO said, Ranjay, you should really study Blockbuster. Blockbuster had 7,000 stores when we started, and yet Blockbuster is gone. So I asked him, how did you kill Blockbuster? He said, everybody asked me that question. We did not kill Blockbuster. Who killed Blockbuster? Blockbuster killed Blockbuster. So it was intriguing to me, and even Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great and Built to Last, finally gave up on writing about success. He wrote a book called How the Mighty Fall. So, and then I had looked at Sears. Sears Roebuck invented retail. They invented private label and stock, they invented the financial intersection between retail and finance. They invented mail order. I mean, they were a pioneer. Peter Drucker called them the best managed company in the world. They had a building named after themselves. They had so much going on, and yet here we are. In fact, one of the early senior leaders who was there from the very early days, after he retired, wrote a book called The Big Store. And he wrote, we've only been taught how to grow, not how to change. So I was intrigued about why companies like this fail. I had seen them go through denial and the lack of attention. I had seen them overconfidence in customer loyalty, loss of connection to customer, and then finally inability to change. So this was where I was. And I had kind of come to realize that there were 3 buckets of inertia in companies. There was strategic inertia, there was organizational inertia, and there was cultural inertia. So this is me, right? This is me circa, 8 years ago. And so I'm doing this. I'm trying to write a book on business transformation and change. I have done case studies on old companies and new companies. And as I'm studying transformation, one of the great turnaround stories was Microsoft. And full disclosure, I had worked there in the 1980s myself. So when my first job was at Microsoft. So, I was intrigued by this company because for the longest time, their stock price went nowhere. And then after Satya took over, so I requested an interview with Satya. And miraculously, he agreed. So I'm talking to Satya. I said, Satya, how did you transform Microsoft? He said, Ranjay, we first needed a strategy. We needed to refresh our strategy. We actually didn't even have a strategy. I said, great, strategic inertia. Then he said, our organization was messed up. We were very siloed and we were internally focused and complex organization. We had to simplify and collaborate. I said, organizational inertia, great. And then he said, third, our culture was really broken. We were very arrogant and insular, and we had to create a culture with a growth mindset. I said, cultural inertia, great. So at this point, Satya is a mild-mannered person. At this point, I kind of said, Satya, it's amazing. What you're describing is exactly what I teach and what I've been studying. So he said, Ranjay, you interrupted me. There's a fourth thing. I'm thinking, fourth thing? What fourth thing? And I'm thinking to myself, only to myself, really? Until now, you were a serious CEO telling me about serious stuff. And now you're going to send some corporate PR my way about purpose and mission. This is all corporate speak. I didn't believe him. But he left me curious, thinking about this question. And it was on my mind, and I was trying to figure out, is it real? Is it not real? I'm on sabbatical, so I have lots of free time. And then I remember a story about my own mother when I was growing up here. So my mother taught at the American school here in New Delhi, and the school sent her to an American university, to Vanderbilt, for a master's degree in anthropology. This program was the school teachers from all over the world met in Athens, Greece, every summer for 5 summers, and they all got a master's degree at the end of it. The faculty flew in from America. So she would go there, and her master's thesis was about tribal Indian women who hand-printed their own fabrics. And my mother got so fascinated. This is before garment export ever happened. There was no Rajasthani prints happening. She was out there studying these women in Rajasthan and Gujarat and everywhere, other places. So first of all, she was so in love with these prints that she started to buy them and wear them herself. Because in the American school, sometimes some people look down on Indians. They say poor, 60s. This is late 60s. They look down on Indians, say poor country, backward place. And my mother was like, no, we are Indian. We may be poor, but we are actually a very ancient civilization with beautiful things. So she would wear these fabrics on her skirts and blouses for herself. And then all her colleagues would want to buy her clothes from her. And then when she would go for these summer courses in Athens, all her classmates would buy her clothes from her. So she had a crazy idea in 1972. She decided to pack 2 suitcases and go to France, to Paris. And she convinced several fashion houses to buy her designs. And her whole idea was not to make a business only. It was to show the Western world how beautiful and aesthetically advanced India was, even as a poor country. Anyway, this thing takes off. She's got a very successful business. I'm a teenager. She has me working in the business. I'm working crazy hours. And one summer, I remember having dinner with her, and I was giving my mother a lecture about work-life balance. It was actually right here in Delhi at the Bukhara restaurant. Yeah, no, there was another place. Sorry, that was her favorite place. But so I'm telling her about work-life balance. What I was really trying to tell her was I wanted a vacation. So my mother put down her fork and she said, son, what a horrible phrase. Work-life balance. She says, that puts work in opposition to life. Maybe you can have work-leisure balance. You can have work-family balance. But work-life balance? So, and she said, my wish for you is you never have to work a day in your life. So now I was very intrigued by this idea. I said, Mom, you're absolutely right. I never want to work a day in my life. This is such a good idea. You should keep working hard. And she said, no, that's not what I meant. She said, I really wish you never have to feel like you're working a day in your life. And so I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about Satya, and I'm confused. right? But what I knew from my training as a graduate student when I was at Harvard was we were taught every business has tactics, strategy, and a vision. What are you going to do? That's the what of business. Then there is the organization, values, and culture. This is the how you're going to do it. What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? Right? The third question of a why you are in business was just an abstract academic question. It's a mission statement. You check a box, get some PR people to write some one-line, cute line, and put it on the wall, and forget about it. So that's what I thought when I thought of the word purpose. I'm thinking of my mother's business. I'm thinking of Satya saying it, but the media doesn't buy it. I'm looking at media articles. The Financial Times says, this is all hoax. They called it purpose washing, virtue signaling, posturing. They had all kinds of things they were calling it. There was even an article called Sex, Lies, and Mission Statements, which talked about how Theranos had a purpose statement. Fraud companies, Enron had a purpose statement. Purdue Pharmaceuticals, that was implicated in the whole OxyContin kind of epidemic in the US, was also implicated, and more. I put Facebook up there because when they were in trouble in Congress, Zuckerberg shows up in Congress with a new purpose statement saying, we bring the world closer together. So, there's a lot of cynicism around this word. So, and then when you saw any books about purpose, they were always the same few companies. Patagonia, Ben & Jerry's. The founder had some, unusual esoteric ideas about being very progressive and want to give it all away. So it was like a fringe idea for fringe companies who were doing something. But Satya left me with a hypothesis. The hypothesis was that any flourishing organization needs to have a great strategy. It needs to have a great organization and culture to execute that strategy. And his idea was the key unlock to even having a strategy or even having an organization and culture to implement strategy was purpose. That's what he said. I didn't believe it. I'd never heard of it. I never thought of it. I hadn't seen it. But I had a sabbatical. I had a year to kind of figure it out, right? So I would start to ask people, how purpose-driven are you? And everybody would raise their hand in our classes. Then I would say, what do you mean when you filled out this poll? What were you thinking? Oh, we have a mission statement. We talk about it. It's written on the wall. Everybody knows it. I wasn't impressed. So here's my talk now. Let's get started. Okay, that was just warming up. Okay, now let's get into the conversation. I want to talk about three things with you. What is purpose? What does it mean? Why does it matter? Does it really matter? Right? Is it good for business or is it just a feel-good exercise? And finally, how do you do it? So let's start with the why question. Oh, what question? I'm sorry, what question? The word purpose was never designed for organizations. For thousands of years, including in our civilization, every ancient civilization talked about purpose as an individual idea. In our culture, we talk about dharma, right? So purpose was not an organizational idea. So I'm not going to debate this word with you. I'm going to share with you a modern Stanford psychologist definition. William Damon defines purpose as a stable and generalized intention to accomplish something that is at the same time meaningful to the self and consequential for the world beyond the self. Now, to me, the most interesting word in this definition is "and." Because he's saying it has to be meaningful to the self. We all want to do things that are meaningful to us. Some of us want money. Some of us want status. Some of us want power. Some of us want recognition. Some of us want to feel relevant. We all want something. And I'm not judging anybody for that. We all want to do things that are meaningful to us. But in addition to that, and most of us, not all of us, deep down, want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We all want to feel like I have done something of consequence for the world beyond myself. Maybe we don't do it. Maybe over time we forget it. Maybe we rationalize it and say, well, my children are great. They will do it on my behalf, right? Or, I've raised a great family, or I have a great boss, or somehow we try to convince ourselves. But most of us deep down want to feel like we're part of something bigger than ourselves, right? And that's what purpose was. That was a central construct that for thousands of years has been around. Why are you on this planet? Why are we here? Why am I here? So that's what I thought. But in organizations, it becomes the mission statement. In fact, I went back now, I'm going back. After my Satya call, I go back and read the mission statement. And I read Satya's statement is now to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. It sounded pretty generic to me. Okay, it's better than what the guy before him had, which was a bunch of big words and don't mean anything. So he simplified it. So now I requested a follow-up phone call with Satya. I said, dear Satya, I would love to, explore this further with you. Would you mind sparing a few minutes? Miraculously, he agreed again. So I'm going to paraphrase and kind of verbalize what I learned from my conversation with him. And then after that, I would say I did about 300 interviews across 28 companies around the world, in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, and in North America, of course, also. And here's the gist of what I learned. The first thing I learned was purpose is not a purpose statement. So what Satya said to me was, he said, Ranjay, you're confused because you're fixating on the words, which look pretty generic to you. What you don't know is the 9 months we spent debating every single word. We had to even debate our strategy to agree on those words. So debating the purpose statement forced us to think about our strategy. It forced us to think about our culture and everything else going on in our organization. So it wasn't just a word exercise. It wasn't a wordsmithing exercise. We had to really look inside. Who are we? I said, oh. Then he said, it's a unifying ideal of the problems you want to profitably solve. You see the word profitably? This is not non-profitably. This is not charity. This is not CSR. It's not ESG, no acronym. It's saying, what problems do we want to profitably solve? What value do you want to create it? How do you want to create it? For whom do you want to create it? Right? The idea was that purpose involves ambition. It is ambition. It involves impact. It also has an idealistic cast to it. It has about duties and responsibilities. Right? Now, the word purpose forces you to think long term. Now, let me go to Larry Fink. So I'm asking Larry Fink, why do you as an investor care about purpose? He said, I'm not an investor. He said, we are an asset manager. We are custodians for other people's money, right? We create mutual funds and instruments in which others can invest. Most of our investors are long-term, but they are silent. And I want to communicate to these company CEOs to stop only being short-term thinkers. They need to be long-term thinkers aligned with these silent investors. And it's rather than say be long-term, I say tell me your purpose. He said the word purpose forces you to think long-term about yourself. And when you think long-term, you have to think about stakeholders. So people confuse purpose as CSR or anything else, or sustainability, or it's charity. It's just a long-term view of yourself. Why are you here? Which includes business, which includes business impact. It also includes stakeholder impact. It includes all of the above. But we confuse it as this kind of CSR kind of thing. And I did myself personally. It's a much more fundamental idea. Why are you in business? Which means, who are you here to serve? How are you creating value? How are you making money? What is your ambition? So that was my learning, that purpose is not a purpose statement. Now I'm like, is it good for business? Is it just a checkbox? In fact, The Economist was really anti-purpose. At one point, they said purpose is a distraction. It confuses business leaders. They need to focus on one thing, optimize for shareholder value. The moment you add other variables into the utility function, it confuses them. Then someone said, purpose is anti-democratic. CEOs use purpose as an excuse to give away money to their favorite charities. Redistribution is the job of elected officials, not of unelected CEOs who are taking shareholder money and giving it to their personal pet causes. It's anti-democratic. So you see the rhetoric building up. Then in the US, it became purpose is woke. It's woke capitalism. It's all this sustainability, environmental stuff. And it was not, and none of the above. It was just a long-term view of your business, which happens to then involve your thinking about the variety of stakeholders you must serve, which includes customers, it includes employees, it includes shareholders, it includes others, community, society, and planet. That was the logic, but it turned into this convoluted ideas. So I started asking people, how is purpose good for business? Is it good for business or not really good for business? Right? The gentleman says, I pity those who think of purpose coming in the expense of performance. Right? Larry Fink himself said, purpose unifies management, it drives ethical behavior, it guides culture and sustains long-term financial returns. But these were assertions. Finally, after 6 months interviewing all these people, and I would ask them one question, is purpose good for business? If so, how? And after 6 months of wallowing, I finally figured out there were 3 things that purpose really unlocks in an organization. Remember, going back to my research, I study how to unlock growth in companies, right? So I'm trying to understand, is purpose a good unlock that I never thought about? Because that's what Satya said. I also discovered, by the way, if you notice over here, the book is called Deep Purpose. And I say over here, features of deep purpose organizations. Because I discovered that most companies practice superficial purpose. Just put a mission statement on the wall. It has no functional benefit, 0. You put a mission statement on the wall, it ain't going to mean nothing for anybody. The only companies that benefited from purpose were ones who went deep with it. In fact, my publishers wanted to call the book Purpose because somehow one-word titles seemed to sell more copies. I couldn't. I had to call it Deep Purpose. Because only when you went deep with purpose did you really see the benefits of embracing a purpose. So there were 3 benefits of purpose. The first was directional. Purpose provided a kind of an orienting framework about what direction we want to go to. When I talked to the Lego CEO, Jorn Vignutstrup, who turned around Lego from almost bankrupt company, he said, you know, what happened here at Lego is we didn't really know where we were going. And you need to kind of, and writing a purpose forced us to clarify what business we want to be in. And it was really interesting how they discovered their purpose. He actually went back to the archives of Lego and found the founder of Lego, 75 years earlier, had defined the purpose of Lego as intelligent play. And in spite of having spent months and months trying to brainstorm what it was, the moment he saw intelligent play, he said, that's it. That's who we are. They then use that as a filter to decide which businesses to divest and which ones to stay in. So purpose doesn't give you answers, but it gives you an orienting framework, a North Star, which also allows you to make trade-offs and choices. So that's the first one. The second one is motivational. Somehow it seems that employees care about purpose, or they want, some employees, not all, some employees seem to care about wanting to work for a company that stands for something. And it attracts a certain kind of talent who shows up in a certain kind of way. And the millennials somehow seem to resonate even more with this. So that was another piece of the puzzle. The last was relational. It seemed that companies that really had a purpose, deep purpose, customers resonated more with them, and so did suppliers and ecosystem partners. Without prompting any of you, can you name one company that everybody trusts in India? Come on, say it. Did you hear that? Do you think foreign partners are more attracted when they're looking to find a reliable partner in India? Who do they want to work with? Does that make sense? Customers, when they buy a product from that company, are they more willing to pay a premium even if they have to? Right? So purpose, having a real purpose that stands for something, is money in the bank. So let me just quickly walk you through each of these. I want to focus on the second one. I'll skip the first one, let me go to the second one of motivational. So for 100 years, management researchers have studied how to get people to work harder. Sorry, that's what we study, okay? In human resources, in organizational behavior, but also in microeconomics. And they found there kind of three broad buckets of things. From the 1930s to the 1980s, the model used to be job satisfaction, pay people well, give them a bonus for working hard, and give them the tools, training, and resources, and they will work hard. They'll be satisfied. They'll work hard for you. That worked till the 80s. Then in the 80s, there was a Harvard Business School professor named Richard Hackman, who was the first to introduce engagement. The idea that if you're a part of a team, have autonomy, you feel like you're learning and growing every day, guess what happens? You're engaged, you work even harder. And Gallup went crazy with this forever. In the last decade, there's a third dimension people have. This is a Yale professor and a Michigan professor who introduced the idea that people, when they are inspired at work, they will work even harder when they find meaning in what they're doing. Back to my mother again. Remember her business, right? She wasn't trying to make money. She was trying to show the world how advanced a civilization we were. Inspired work. By the way, the productivity is there for you. It's stunning. So there you are. People are willing to work remarkably harder when they find, and by the way, so many startups play with this game as well, right? So if people are inspired, they're energized, they're engaged. I thought I'd just show you. Can I show you two short videos? Yeah, just to wake you up at this time of the afternoon. Dean Chaturvedi, do I have your permission? Yes. So this is a colleague of mine. He loves to go on cruise holidays. And the captain of the ship told him he must go and see this greeter at a restaurant. There's a backup at the restaurant because she's so popular. And she's not trained to do this. She's not asked to do this. But somehow she's defined her job differently. When she was asked, like, what do you do? She's not a greeter. She said, my job is to make people happy. So watch what she did. He made amateur video on his iPhone. So. You get the idea? So that's motivational. And the last one is relational. Purpose branding is a super hot topic these days, but it's not just a branding exercise. You want to build a relation with trust with your ecosystem partners and customers. It has to be real. So besides all that, back to Satya, he said, I want to work in a place where everybody gets meaning out of their work on an everyday basis. We spend far too much time at work for it not to have deeper meaning in life. So, when I teach in a MBA and exec programs, I ask that first question, how purpose-driven are you? They all give themselves a 4.5 out of 5. After I do this little mini lecture, I do a longer version of it, and I say directional, motivational, relational. And then I ask the question, to what degree are you fully taking advantage of the full potential of your purpose? The same score goes from 4.5 down to 2.5. So we think we have a purpose. We think we're using it. I don't think we really are. So I realize there's an unlocked potential that most organizations, purpose is not mainstream yet. And I realize that most organizations don't put their purpose to work. They haven't really internalized it deeply, nor are they leaning in on it and using it to unlock the business. And that's what Satya was trying to tell me. He said, we unlocked Microsoft with our purpose. So that's, and so the idea here was that purpose can drive performance. It's an unlock to growth. It's not only about a feel-good exercise. So now we get to the hardest part. And I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I'm going to just skim through it. This is a long infomercial that hopefully you'll read the book. No, that's not the idea. But I want to just quickly, the 6 of the 8 chapters are about implementation. And I'm not going to go into that right now with you. But I'll just give you a quick, the first thing is, we all know that purpose is a great C-suite exercise. The CEO and the leadership team get together, they talk about purpose, they sing songs and hold hands, they're all inspired, and then guess what happens? As you go down the hierarchy, nobody knows what purpose is, right? Doesn't, what am I supposed to do with this mission statement? So, this is the problem. Writing a statement is easy, what comes next is much harder. So this is what I learned was that, how do you build purpose and communicate purpose? First, how do you build it? I have a whole chapter on how do you craft a purpose if you don't have one already, right? Then how do you communicate purpose? In this context, I looked at Indra Nooyi at Pepsi, right? You don't talk about purpose as a lecture and abstract. She described purpose in a personal way. So when she talked about water, to fill 4 buckets of water. So each of us had a bucket of water. That was it. So I know all about water. So they make it morally potent. They make it personal. They make it real. So it's not just some abstract, here's our mission statement, now please go do it. This gentleman who was this former CMO at Pepsi said, it was complete surround sound performance to the point where people knew performance with purpose so well, they called it by its abbreviation PWP, right? Then you have, how do you bake the purpose into the architecture of the company, structure, process, people, culture, the classic things we all teach in business schools. How do you bring purpose into that conversation? That's what I started to look at. But the hardest thing about purpose was making it personal. How do you individualize purpose? And here, this chapter was the hardest chapter to write, called Making Purpose Personal. And I found that companies were actually, some of them, were actually making employees go through personal life purpose coaching. Microsoft made 100,000 employees go through personal life purpose coaching. Unilever made 60,000 go through it. BlackRock made the entire company of 25,000 go through it. KPMG, EY, and so many more. So I asked them, why are you doing this? Who cares about personal life purpose? And one of them said to me, how can you get an employee to buy into company purpose when they haven't thought about their own life purpose? And we want to connect the two, hopefully, somehow. In fact, the CHRO at Microsoft said to me, you don't really work for Microsoft until Microsoft works for you. So trying to get people to really buy into the whole place, right? That is personal. So let me summarize what I've talked to you about. I've talked about what is purpose. I hope I've given you a teaser into what it is. It's not a mission statement, right? We talked about why is it important? Is it good for business, right? Directional, motivational, and relational. And I've just kind of skimmed the idea that implementation is hard and you got to really work hard at it. That's where all the hard work happens. Now, I thought I'd end with something from here in India. The dean quoted from the ancient scriptures here. I found a quote that is my favorite, if I may share, right? And you can see this is dating back, roughly 1200 BC, 1000 to 1200 BC. Here's what one of our ancient ancestors had to say about purpose. This person, he or she, we don't know who it was, said, you are what your deepest desire is. As your desire is, so is your intention. Intention. As your intention is, so is your will. As your will is, so is your deed. And as your deed is, so is your destiny. So this is something that we all should be connecting into. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here this afternoon. I am honored to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Gulati, for that inspiring lecture. That story about how your mother began her business was very heartwarming. And of course, unlocking and finding deep purpose is a theme that resonates deeply with most of us. The relevance of resetting culture in organizations is another aspect that cannot be emphasized enough. Thank you again, sir, for those thought-provoking takeaways. Thank you. We're also privileged today to have with us Justice Hima Kohli, former Judge Supreme Court of India, as our chief guest. Justice Hima Kohli enrolled as an advocate in the year 1984 and mainly practiced in the High Court of Delhi, India, till her elevation as a judge in the same court in the year 2006. During her practice as a standing counsel and legal advisor to the New Delhi Municipal Council, and as an additional standing counsel, Government of Delhi, from the year 1999 to 2004, she appeared in a number of important matters and argued many issues of public importance. Justice Kohli was sworn in as the first woman Chief Justice of the High Court for the state of Telangana at Hyderabad in January 2021 and was appointed as the Chancellor of National Academy of Legal Studies and Research, Hyderabad. During her tenure as Chief Justice, she was instrumental in establishing the International Arbitration and Conciliation Center at Hyderabad. As a judge in the High Court of Delhi, she was nominated as a member of the National Law Schools at Delhi and Kolkata, executive chairperson of the Delhi State Legal Services Authority, and chaired many high-powered important committees. Justice Kohli was appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court of India on August 2021 and laid down office in September 2024. She is the first woman judge to have been elevated to the Supreme Court from her parent court, the High Court of Delhi. May I invite Justice Hima Kohli to share her thoughts with us.
Very good evening to all of you. Professor Gulati had made sure that I have an audience that is live and peppy. Thanks to his very interesting discourse, it felt like I had gone back to college for some time. And I'm sure that his students feel the same and come back with energy whenever they attend any lecture given by Professor Gulati. I look forward to another occasion like that, maybe in a different setup. So let's get over the formality of wishing you all a good evening. Professor Gulati, our esteemed honorary, Professor Harivansh Chaturvedi, Director General, IILM Lodi Road, CEO Ms. Manika Raikwar, Ms. Anand Rai, Mr. Anand Rai, Ms. Arti Rai, Mr. P. Dwarkanand, distinguished dignitaries, professors, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a privilege to deliver this address at the IILM Distinguished Global Thinkers Award for the year 2025. I believe this is the 14th year that these awards are being given. Today, we celebrate a remarkable scholar, Professor Gulati, whose path-breaking contributions have not only enriched management thought, but have deeply influenced how organizations operate across the globe. We've just had a little bit of a trailer of how it does, and it is exciting indeed. I'm not going to go into any introduction related to Professor Gulati. It has already been done, and we are all familiar with his erudite work and his experiences. Talking of his latest work, Deep Purpose, the Heart and Soul of High Performance Companies, it has provided a fresh and indeed an impactful perspective on the role of purpose within organizations. And this seminal work underlines how purpose-driven management strategies foster not only exceptional business outcomes, but also meaningful social contributions. So, keeping the word purpose sticking in our mind, I'll go to the forte that I'm more familiar with, purpose, and Indian constitutional perspective. The profound essence of Professor Gulati's idea on purpose finds deep resonance within the framework of the Indian Constitution. Purpose, inherently significant beyond corporate and managerial realms, forms the foundational ethos of our Constitution and explicitly outlined in the preamble. opening statement that he was just emphasizing in the context of what companies come up with, what you can call their mission statements. That's our preamble. It encapsulates the core ideals and aspirations of the Indian people. It articulates values of liberty of thought, liberty of expression, of belief, of faith and worship, equality of status and opportunity, and fraternity, ensuring dignity and unity amongst all citizens. These compass of the Constitution and the society and the citizenry and the guiding vision for the nation's governance, for its legislative initiatives, and the judicial interpretations that follow. Our judiciary, at the level of the Supreme Court of India and the state high courts, consistently demonstrate unwavering dedication to these constitutional ideals that can be termed as purposes. Judicial decisions frequently emphasize the importance of interpreting the laws, policies in alignment with both the letter and the spirit of the Constitution. Landmark judgments delivered by the Supreme Court of India have repeatedly underlined the necessity of preserving constitutional morality, which transcends mere textual interpretation and addresses deeper ethical concerns and considerations. Through seminal judgments, the Indian judiciary has reinforced of fundamental rights, of human dignity and social justice, the rights of minorities, of promoting gender equality, of addressing environmental concerns. The Indian judiciary has diligently upheld what could be called constitutional purposes. We call them constitutional values. Each ruling reinforces the underlying philosophy of the Constitution, ensuring that governance remains as the Indian legal system continuously reaffirms the nation's foundational ideals, maintaining its amidst evolving societal contexts. And that is why we call the Constitution of India a living and a dynamic uh, text. It is not to be interpreted strictly, but it moves on with times and takes into its fold all the changes that keep taking place from time to time for us to reinterpret it, to understand it in the current context and update ourselves. And that is why it's called the living document. Coming to navigating change with purpose. Society today stands at a critical juncture marked by significant technological advancements, unprecedented environmental challenges, and dynamic socio-economic transformations. Emerging technologies such as AI, blockchain, and quantum computing bring forth issues such as cybersecurity, data privacy that were previously unimaginable. We have reached a stage where courts are now wary before they are addressed on virtual platforms to check whether actually the person addressing is not generated through an AI concept or is it a living an arguing individual. So that question that pops up to us many times when you switch on an app to say, are you a bot? Actually is being realized in the courts many times because it's happened, as you all know, in the US Supreme Court. And it was verified that it was not a living individual, but a bot. Climate change, with its multifaceted impacts, demands innovative legal recourses and global collaboration, testing the boundaries of traditional jurisprudence. Simultaneously, globalization continues to reshape the economic policies, requiring national frameworks to adapt swiftly and efficiently. In this complex landscape, it becomes increasingly essential to anchor ourselves firmly in what we can call a purpose driven governance and ethical clarity, guided clearly by articulating the foundational principles of the Constitution, that is, the preamble. It is not enough to adapt to change. We must steer it with ethical resolve and a clear sense of purpose for the greater good of the society. The Indian legal system, that is deeply embedded in the constitutional ideals and values outlined vividly in the preamble, provides a stable foundation for addressing these contemporary issues. Our Constitution, envisioned as a living document, just as I mentioned, equips the nation and the judiciary to interpret and respond effectively to evolving circumstances. When faced with modern challenges like security threat, protection of individual privacy rights in a data centric world, and the urgent need for environmental preservation, the clarity and depth of constitutional purpose becomes vital. Just as organizations driven by clear purpose demonstrate resilience and achieve sustainable growth, India's constitutional framework empowers its legal institutions and the society to withstand disruption and promote continuous progress. Upholding constitutional values such as justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity ensures our nation's strength and stability, enabling it to adapt successfully to turbulent global conditions while preserving its fundamental character and identity. So let's look at the timeless wisdom as a guiding light, our national motto. And if Professor Gulati would like me to address it as our purpose, our motivation is Satyameva meaning truth alone will triumph, taken from the ancient texts of the Mundaka Upanishad. It serves as a timeless beacon guiding ethical governance and public administration in India. This powerful phrase embodies a profound moral principle, which is truthfulness, transparency, and integrity, which are indispensable for effective governance and proper functioning of the democracy. In an age that is characterized by complex societal and political challenges, this ancient ideal offers an enduring wisdom, reminding the public servants, the policy makers, and all citizens alike of their fundamental duty towards honesty and accountability. It is through the consistent adherence to these principles that we safeguard what we call public trust. We promote principles of a democratic republic. Equally significant, if I may say, is the Supreme Court's own motto, which is Yato Dharma Stato Jayaha, which means where there is righteousness, victory shall follow. This is, as Professor Gulati might call, the mission statement of the Supreme Court of India. This profound dictum originates from the teachings of Lord Krishna to Arjun in the Mahabharata and encapsulates the vital relationships between morality, righteousness, and ultimate justice. Within this concise statement lies the essence of the Indian judicial philosophy, emphasizing that the path to genuine justice inevitably requires a moral clarity, an ethical judgment, and an unwavering commitment to fairness. Our courts have consistently drawn from this ancient wisdom, interpreting and delivering judgments that are not merely rooted in the letter of law, but deeply aligned to its underlying spirit of righteousness and equality. This guiding principle is our purpose statement in the Supreme Court. It ensures that judicial decisions transcend mere technicality or procedure, resonating instead with moral authority, thereby preserving public confidence and reinforcing the judiciary's role as the ultimate guardian of justice and fairness in the society. So let's see what are our learnings from organizational purposes. Professor Gulati's research underscores the transformative impact of a clearly articulated purpose within organizational contexts. Companies achieving clarity of purpose experience heightened performance and sustainable success, as I understand. This principle, crucial in business environments, holds an equal significance within the judicial and legal frameworks. Legal professionals often face organizational challenges similar to business leaders, complex human interactions, institutional constraints, resource limitations, questions of ethic. Professor Gulati's insights offer a valuable framework for understanding how clarity of purpose can streamline judicial processes, can enhance ethical decision making, and ultimately reinforce public trust and institutional integrity. Purpose is a catalyst for progress. The power of purpose, as illuminated by Professor Gulati, extends beyond corporate boundaries, fostering a broader societal impact. Purpose driven approaches deeply integrate ethical standards within strategic planning, emphasizing that societal well being can thrive alongside business profitability. In parallel, purpose driven adjudication by courts promotes societal progress, equitable development, and national unity. Landmark judicial rulings addressing climate change, data privacy, and social justice demonstrate how deeply embedded constitutional purpose can effectively address contemporary challenges, facilitating social harmony and progress. So let's bridge ancient wisdom and modern challenges. The distinctiveness of the Indian constitutional philosophy is a deeply rooted in its seamless integration of timeless ancient wisdom with modern democratic principles. This harmonious blend creates a living and breathing framework that remains resilient in the face of evolving societal needs and dynamic global changes. Our Constitution is not merely a legal document, it is a profound expression of the values drawn from the ancient texts and philosophies, such as the principle of dharma, signifying righteousness and moral order. I'm not too sure if you would like to call it purpose, if you can call it purpose branding. This confluence of tradition and modernity equips our constitutional framework with remarkable adaptability, enabling it to address contemporary issues ranging from cybersecurity threats and environmental concerns to complex socioeconomic challenges. Let's not forget a random example which we all experience every day, the Aadhaar card, and its head on with the right to privacy and how it was reconciled by the Supreme Court ultimately to come to a conclusion that privacy is non negotiable. But in certain circumstances, when that information is good for the society, then one must submit to the higher good. And that is how it was ultimately accepted as part of any identity that an Indian citizen has, the Aadhaar card, the foundation of your identity. So, coming back to Professor Golati's distinguished scholarship, similarly emphasizes this vital synthesis in the context of organizational behavior and management practices. His pioneering research thoughtfully bridges conventional management theories with contemporary insights. It demonstrates how organizations can leverage functional principles to navigate today's rapidly evolving and unpredictable business environment. By emphasizing the profound significance of purposeful leadership and deep organizational clarity, Professor Gulati advocates that for businesses to ground their strategies in enduring values while simultaneously embracing innovation and change to unlock their growth. This balanced approach allows organizations to build resilience, maintain relevance, and continuously advance their performance in a way that positively impacts the society at large. In doing so, his work provides invaluable guidance and guidelines not only to corporate entities but also to institutions by and large, aiming to align their operations with a deeper sense of purpose, ethical clarity, and societal contribution. Today, in recognizing Professor Gulati with Distinguished Global Thinker Award for the year 2025, we are all gathered here to celebrate his invaluable contributions to academia and the management practices. His scholarship profoundly impacts how organizations worldwide understand and implement purpose driven strategies. His exploration of purpose reminds us of all the importance of introspection and clarity in guiding our professional and personal actions. The work that Professor Gulati has embodied in his book inspires one to continually reassess our motivations, ensuring that endeavors made are not merely successful, but are also meaningful. To conclude, as we have assembled here today to honor Professor Gulati, let us also use this occasion as an opportunity to reaffirm our unwavering dedication to purpose driven approaches within our individual spheres of influence. Let each of us pledge not merely to appreciate, but actively personalize and advance the foundational values that have been so eloquently enshrined in our Constitution. By aligning our daily actions, professional decisions, and broader responsibilities with these enduring principles, we can ensure that our contributions meaningfully enhance the well being of our communities, that they elevate our professions, and ultimately benefit the nation as a whole. In this spirit, I once again extend my warmest greetings to Professor Gulati, whose remarkable scholarship has profound insights, continue to inspire a meaningful change and excellence in leadership, and of course, an enduring purpose across diverse fields. His path breaking work serves as a constant reminder of the extraordinary outcomes achievable when deep purposes is authentically embraced and thoughtfully applied and personalized. Before concluding, I would also like to express my appreciation to the chairman and the esteemed management committee of IILM Group of Institutions for organizing the IILM Distinguished Global Thinker Awards. It is through their dedicated effort, vision, and commitment to recognizing and celebrating global thought leadership that we have gathered today on such a meaningful occasion, enriched by ideas that truly shape and guide our collective future. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Justice Kohli, for your insightful comments. Purpose-driven strategy indeed is absolutely imperative for success in organizations, in the legal system, in personal life as well. Tremendous depth in what you said about the relevance of purpose in the Constitution as well. Thank you so much, ma'am. On behalf of IILM, I thank Professor Ranjay Gulati and the chief guest for making this function truly memorable. I now request Professor Chaturvedi to present the caricature to Professor Ranjay Gulati. And Ms. Manika Raikwar to present the caricature to Justice Kohli. May I request all guests to please rise for the national anthem?
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंग विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंग तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
All guests are requested to please join us for tea in the front lawn.